What up, man?
What's going on?
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's been about 3 days since I've seen you last. It's been a long time with everybody else, but you, it's like pretty much daily. Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't drag anybody else here.
I mean, your son's playing short. My son's playing second.
Yeah.
Little,
Yeah.
on the little man team.
Little guy team. We're the annoying parents now. Yeah. We're gonna need like 30 more of these every time we go watch them play.
So what's up, man?
Nothing, man. It's I can't believe it's been 10 years. Honestly, like when we knew we were gonna do this, we both just talking about we were looking at film and watching, like looking at the roster, all the guys that, it's one thing for it to be you, someone I keep in touch with all the time, but to think about the guys who I haven't seen kind of sparked up some cool memories.
Yeah. It's funny you said. I was looking at so I knew we were gonna do this, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna refresh my memory. Max Ramirez.
Yeah.
You remember this guy?
Yeah.
Max Ramirez. Catch. We ran through quite a bit of catchers. Then we made that trade for Benji.
Yeah.
In the middle. We had Matt Trainer was huge for us. I mean, his locker was right in between ours.
Yeah.
And this dude was a character, man.
He was awesome.
Matt Trainer was great.
Loved him. I mean, all the guys who that are kind of like the unsung guys that people might not think about because they're thinking about you and Josh and Nelly and Cliff and Elvis and all these guys, but Max Ramirez and Matt Trainer and Jorge Cantu and all these guys that kind of like came and went are guys that I still have like these great memories of. And when I think about 2010, I think about those guys just as much.
Jeff Francoeur.
Frenchie. Yeah.
He's still on TV, though.
Still on TV. He cannot stop talking.
Can't stop talking.
Sorry, Frenchie. You're really good at your job, man. Yeah.
Do all right.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's been 10 years. It's insane.
Good times.
That was a trip. That year was a trip. I mean, it was kind of built up to 2010. My first year was 06, and you were here 4 years before me, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Is that right?
4 or 5, something like that.
5 years?
Yeah.
And then the build up to 2010
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was just what an experience. And then the build up in the 2010 season from pitch one, and the way the crowd and the energy and the excitement of the ballpark grew throughout the year. 2010 was a blast. You got like Vlad and Nelson just hitting bombs in the middle of our lineup. And I remember the first time we went into Anaheim, and it was like Vlad's return to Anaheim. And I think this dude hit 4 or 5 home runs.
Crushed him.
And at that point, I knew, like, all right, we're over the hump.
Yeah.
Like, Vlad's on our side.
Mm-hmm.
The Angels can't stop us. And this is our division now. And that's kind of when I felt like, all right, this is ours now.
That was the first step, I think, because Anaheim they were a good team. They had really solid pitching. They didn't make mistakes in the field, and they had Vlad. Like, he was like their guy offensively. And all of a sudden, you go into 2009, they win the division again, even though we were kind of on the way up. And right away, our first sign that winter was we got him. And I was like, it just flipped. Because we took their best player and put him right in the middle of our lineup. We already had a good lineup. We have now, Josh and Nelly and you, and now Vladdy right in the middle of this thing. And it was...
Why don't you ever say it yourself, man?
I was at the top. I was on base.
You were
for you guys.
setting it.
Yeah.
Setting the tone.
Yeah. So it was awesome, man. But we got him, and it was just a whole different feeling. And I remember, like, one thing people thought about Vladdy is this guy who would just show up and like swing at everything, and he wasn't like that, man. He was serious. He was focused. He'd be on the game on the bench at like 6:30, waiting for the game to start, just like steely-eyed and like ready to go out and win.
Yeah, Vlad didn't mess around.
He messed around.
I remember day games with Vlad because I mean he was a freak, right? Like he had a natural ability that no one else really had with the bat.
Yeah.
And I can remember day games because he never wore batting gloves.
Yeah.
So we get to the stadium for a day game. You show up at like 9 or 8:30, 9:30, eat breakfast, kind of hang out, and then you get into your routine. You go straight to the cage, you start hitting or whatever. Vlad, I can remember, would show up, eat his breakfast, full uni.
Yeah.
He would just get full uni dressed with cleats and everything, tape his fingers, and he'd just sit in his locker with his bat.
Yeah.
And he'd just sit there and just like, that's all he did. And then the game would start, and the first swing out of his shoes, just all over whatever.
Bad intentions.
Bad intentions.
Yeah.
And it was just so impressive to me because like you said, he was always locked in on, the task. And like you said, getting him in our lineup, man, it changed a lot.
That was the start. That was the start of 2010. And everything we did in October kind of led to that moment.
And we felt like we were never, my feeling was we felt, that was the first time we felt like we were never out of a game. Like we were never, regardless of how many runs we were behind, how many runs we were ahead, there was zero give up. Like we would continue putting runs on the board. And if we were down 6 or whatever, we felt like we were in striking distance because of those two big guys in the middle of our lineup. If we could get runners on in front of them, in front of Josh and Vlad, things were going to happen. And
we knew they knew it too. That was the fun
they
part.
knew
Like,
it,
that we can be in the 7th inning and you can feel it on the field. Those are things you can't see. Like now that we're retired and you watch games on TV in the stands. When you watch them in the stands as a former player, there's a whole different like level of intensity that goes on down there. It may seem like peanuts and Cracker Jacks when you're up there, but like when you're on the field, there's a different feeling. And we knew they knew that games were never over.
Right.
That was a pretty cool feeling.
It's like the ebbs and flows of the season and the feed off of each other that just becomes unstoppable. In that 2010 year, I felt like that's when we had that momentum.
Yeah.
Where we could all kind of just look at each other.
Right.
There was no verbal. We could just look at each other. We knew, like, we got to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's the 5th inning. We're down 3. Like, it's time.
Right.
And we just clicked. Like, it was just that click that they talk about in sports, where teams click. And, 2009,
we were on the way.
There.
We were on the way.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah. We were learning all those lessons like that year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it was just that exciting first half. And then JD made those huge trades.
Yeah.
Frenchie, Benji, Cantu, Cliff.
And
just, and we felt like, all right, now it's our turn.
Yeah.
Our turn. So it was a blast.
Fun times.
Do you remember the back-to-back Vladdy and Josh hit against Soria? When it was like a 12-12 game or something, or 11-12.
Against KC, right?
Against Soria.
Yeah, I think that was earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Vladdy was like, he came out on fire. He came out with like clear like purpose to like, I think prove the Angels wrong for letting them go. And then he knew that we were right there. So I think Vladdy came out of the gate. Josh actually came out of the gate cold. Vladdy was red hot. And then a couple months in, Josh went like full Roy Hobbs. And like on the way to the MVP, like just went bananas. But
dude, these two guys. All right, these two guys. I mean, we're talking a lot about Josh and Vlad, but you got to throw Nelly in there.
Yeah,
right.
Nelly was awesome.
And I can remember in Toronto. So I don't know how many people have been to the Rogers Center in Toronto, but there's a huge scoreboard up in center field, and it's way up there.
Yeah.
It's like above the restaurant. It is way out there. And I can remember a batting practice where these guys are just taking turns, hitting ball after ball off of the scoreboard out in center. Like, they fed off each other. Like, there was I felt like there was a little bit of competition amongst those 3 dudes because they are all big, huge, like, boppers.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to be left behind.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe Josh didn't feel that way because Josh just kind of
did his own thing. Yeah. I think especially for Nelly, like, with Vladdy, like this countryman, like guy who had proven so much in the game already, then Nelly kind of like, all right, I'm going to kind of, for a longest time, Nelly was like our starter and he got sent down. He'd come back in September and go nuts. And then he kind of gets sent down. It took him a while to kind of find his groove. I think in 2009 was like his first year. He had a great year. In 2010, he was like just a big part of our team. But I think Vladdy was huge for Nelly. But yeah, you're right. I mean, those guys like would literally feed off each other, and having those 3 guys like was physically kind of a big deal for our team. But yeah, I mean, it was, those guys were clearly like our bigger run producers on that team. But then, we were at the top, we were at the 1-2 spots. And then those guys kind of just, went nuts. Josh and Vladdy, especially once Josh got going, I think it was like right around June. That's when we felt like we took off. Every loss was like an accident at that point.
Right.
And then Cliff came like a month later. And that's when we kind of felt the 2010 season really kind of take off because we felt like the town changed in a weird way.
You start seeing Rangers flags on top of cars.
Rangers flags on cars, in front of houses, red and blue hats in the mall, tailgaters before regular season games. We didn't have that before. We'd have it like on Sundays during football season because they were just waiting for a football game to start or something like that. But now everything kind of changed. And that's when that led to the postseason atmosphere we had here. We kind of started to see it develop right around the half All-Star break when we got Cliff.
Right.
And every time Cliff started, there would be like just a ton of people here. That was the first time I think our crowd felt like, wow, this is the first time this team has had like, the word ace is thrown out a lot, but we had an ace, a real one. And that was the start of something really, really cool. The momentum shift and the shift in the town's attitude and the energy level around here. As players, we saw it develop as the season went on. That was probably my best memory of 2010 is seeing this place go from like optimism at the start of the season to like just baseball fever right around the middle point.
Baseball fever's right, man.
It
was crazy around, and when you start to feel that, I felt like, man, we're playing in a place where opposing teams don't want to come.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it has to do with the team and the players that we have, but it also had to do with our atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right in that ballpark, it got loud. People were crazy from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like it was, I felt like
blistering hot.
It was,
so there was like uncomfortable for the other team.
We had the heat and the crowd.
The crowd is on.
And we're bashing baseballs everywhere.
Yeah.
And so pitchers did not want to come in here. Opposing teams did not want to come in here. They knew it was going to be a dogfight. And that's when it all changed, man.
Yeah.
That's when it all changed. It was 2010, and it was what a ride. What a ride it was. It was great. ALCS against the Yankees. Well, I think at that point in the season, in the postseason, we were so confident. We were so cocky that we felt like we were the best team in the league, and both sides, really.
Yeah.
And you remember the media and the talk about, we just won our first postseason series as an organization when we beat Tampa.
Right.
Now we're playing the Yankees, the dreaded Yankees, the high payroll. They're just the New York. They got all the world championships. They're the team to beat always. And I remember the media kind of throwing it in our face, asking us a lot of questions. The Yankees were always the stoppage block for previous Rangers teams.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it never affected us.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it just never got in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was never even after the media questions and answering things, we never had small talk about it. We never talked about the past. We were so focused on that day and our squad that it didn't affect us at all. And I felt like we thought we were better than them anyway.
100%.
And that's kind of what I remember. In the lead up to that, I mean, we got Kobe with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of Cliff, he was our most solid, consistent starter.
Yeah.
He kept us in every single game he started. So the feeling was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Driving to the ballpark, game 6, this is it. And that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more insightful than me, but
no. I remember.
What do you got?
I remember you mentioned the press and stuff like that. I remember being I think at this point we all knew kind of media stuff comes with it, right? So you learn to not get annoyed by it. You learn to not get too high if they give you a compliment because you take it all with a grain of salt. But I remember like what you were saying, they were asking us all the time, how do you feel about playing the Yankees, defending world champs, the Yankees? Even in I remember our advanced scouting meetings before that series, we brought in all
Kevin
of our
Cash?
people. No, for our team, we brought in our scouts.
Yeah, remember Kevin Cash?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He was one of our guys.
Yes. We brought in all these guys, and they kept saying, hey, don't worry about the Yankee mystique. Don't worry about this and that. And I'm like, if you guys are worrying about chilling us out, you don't need to do that. Right. You can stop saying that whenever you're ready because we don't care.
Right.
Just stop. Let's go over what they do. How hard does he throw? What does he like to go? Let's go over normal scouting stuff because we don't care about the other stuff. I remember they kept asking. We went to Yankee Stadium for Game 3, and the series was tied 1-1. And they're like, how are you going to respond to this atmosphere and this crazy Yankee Stadium crowd? I'm like, hey man, this isn't a prison yard. It's a baseball field. They're right there in the stands. If anyone wants to come down here, we got a dugout full of bats. What the hell do you think? What point do you think you're trying to make right now? That we're gonna get scared of someone telling me I suck? They've been telling me I suck for 10 years here. I'm cool with it. Yeah. They hate my mother here.
Right.
She knows it. She doesn't care. So we really thought that was getting so overplaying. Like we just want to play. Like and like what you said, we're like super confident. So I remember we lost like game 1. They came back and they scored a bunch of runs. We had a couple of bad at bats, made some mistakes, and they came back and scored like I think 5 in the 8th and beat us. And I remember the same thing. How are you going to respond to now the Yankees? I'm like, we just lost. Like it was almost like we were surprised the reaction that we were getting and how we were going to respond. I'm like, we're going to respond. We're going to show up tomorrow. We're going to play. Like, and we're probably going to win. So sure enough, we won. But we go to Yankee Stadium, take care of business, win 2 out of 3 there, and we come back.
We emptied the place out
twice.
Like they're talking about this Yankee mystique and these fans and stuff and like how intense they are. We emptied that place. They were leaving in the 7th.
Done. Twice. Game 3 and game 4, we emptied to join out.
And we're we're looking up and like this doesn't happen in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
and
it was just our family section who was like
going crazy.
1,000 sheets to the wind, like right there, just going bananas. So, then we come back for game 6. And I remember like, you know what it is in the postseason, like you start getting in the ballpark earlier and earlier all the time because we just like it's one of the biggest sports cliches, but in a baseball postseason, you really are like family at that point. You spend so much time together, and sure enough, it's like 12:30. You're rolling to the ballpark, and I remember I got off the freeway and I made a left coming here, and I was like, whoa! And all of a sudden, you see tents and cars and barbecue and smoke, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Mm-hmm. This is gonna be fun. And like we had Colby going, and if they happened to get by Colby, we had Cliff for game 7. Right. Like we got these guys. And then we knew we were gonna have a little bit of weather, so we were gonna be, I think, delayed that game. Yep. Usually delays like unis are off, cards. I remember we were in a bit of a delay, and everyone full uniform, cleats, like a line at the door. Like, can you just please let us out there?
Just pull the tarp.
Let's go. We want to play. And
just waiting for Wash to walk in and say 10 minutes.
Yeah. Say 10 minutes. Drop a couple of like nice little 4-letter words. Let me see. Mother's 6, and then a couple 12-letter words, and then we're good. So it was, that was a fun night. Colby had it going quick, and we were kind of like, and then sure enough, I think it was they intentionally walked Josh because Josh had it going at that point.
The fire.
Vladdy with big one, with a big double. And one thing, again, Vladdy was like such a proud dude, and they kept. One thing about postseason series, like you face so many talented teams that inevitably a couple guys in your roster got it going, and then a couple guys are waiting to get going. And then sometimes they flip, right? Like Josh got it going. He didn't have it going in the first series, I remember, then he got it going against the Yankees. And they intentionally walked him a couple times, and you could see it gritting on Vladdy.
Well, he didn't produce a couple times before that one.
Before that one. So they kept doing it, right? And we all knew, like, at some point, Vladdy's going to be like this, enough's enough.
It was almost like, we, as a team, we were like, why are they doing it? They shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that.
It's going to bite them. And then sure enough, like, first pitch, I think he got a hanger and threw it in the gap, and that gave us 2 runs. And then right there, the ballpark goes nuts, unlocked the 1-1 game. I think it was a 1-1 game. And we kind of like, there was no weight on our shoulders, but it was like, it's winning time now.
Yes.
And Nelly came up right after I hit a homer, I think. Was that the next inning or that night? Might have been that next guy. So you almost like see the weight, Nelly once again feeding off Vladdy.
Nelly go oppo?
No, he pulled it in the left center. I think it was Robertson.
Oh, Robertson.
Yeah. And at that point it was on. That was it. 2-run double, 2-run homer.
The place
now we got him. That was it. Now we started to smell it, and that was it. Again, it started with that drive in, and we knew the crowd was going to go nuts. This was like, again, it's a pretty cool feeling as a player and as a fan. We're like, none of us have been here in this moment before. We've never had a clinching game to go to the World Series. The fans haven't experienced it. We as a team haven't experienced it. Wash hadn't experienced it yet. The staff hadn't. It was all new to everybody. So the energy and the excitement was off the charts.
So I want to know what you thought about the last out, because you played with Alex.
Yeah, I know.
You were the only guy on our team that played with Alex.
Yeah.
And this dude walks up against Neffy.
Yeah.
For the last out of the game. The crowd is booing and cheering.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do because we're about to clinch and go to the World Series, but Alex is walking up. They've been booing him the whole series. So they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, what are you feeling?
Oh,
like,
dude, it was nuts. I remember, first of all, I was a little preoccupied because I think I hit a double in the 7th, and I came out of the box and I felt my hamstring kind of like do something weird. So I get to second, and then somebody knocked me in, but I was able to kind of like
Yeah, it was like
jog
easy.
home,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, I think our trainer saw me a little bit. He's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I'm good." Like,
J-Mo.
I'm not going anywhere for this game. Like, so the whole time I'm like thinking about my leg, and next thing you know, like the bottom of the 8th goes by. Here comes the top of the 9th. So we're taking ground balls, 3 innings. I look up. Derek had made the last out of the 8th, and I'm like, Alex is hitting 3rd. And they hit me right there. I'm like, if that happens, if it lines up like that, I'm going to, because you know how it is, like, I don't know about you, dude, but like, I never like took time during games, during the season to ever be like, everybody's like, do you ever stop and like appreciate where you're at? I never did. I'm like, I got to stay focused because
blinders.
Yeah, man, blinders. Because there's so many talented guys out here. If I lose it for 1 second, they're going to step all over me. I don't want to let that happen. But I remember I was like, if Alex comes up, I'm going to take 2 seconds to kind of enjoy what this is going to look like. I think it was Curtis Granderson struck out. I think Cano grounded out. And here comes Alex, and the roof goes off this joint. And I remember I was kind of like, I was playing 3rd, and I kind of went like, just kind of looked around, just checked it out, man. And that's when I was like, I don't want to just look at like hands and listen to the noise. I want to look at faces.
Right.
And I remember like I picked out a kid, and I picked out, and everyone like, just the feeling of like happiness and like joy in the crowd. And I'm like, all right, I'm glad let's lock it back in, but I'm glad I did that.
Took a second.
For 5 seconds to kind of like give myself that picture in my head that I have clear as day right now. And I'm glad I did it. Because I never did that. Not in a spring training game, not in a regular season game. I never did that. And that was the only time I really did it. And it was incredible, man.
Unless it was a pitching change.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's all wheels are off. Yeah. But I remember the sequencing, because we didn't have a mound visit, but I remember like we had Benji back there who was incredible, and Neffy was going to pretty much follow Benji's lead. I remember Alex had either a couple good takes or a couple good foul balls on fastball. I'm like, they drop a 3 down right now, like he's not going to be able to swing,
right? Because
Neffy was just like, that's a special heater. And I remember like there was some time I'd call it Benji, and at 3rd I couldn't see the signs, but I could tell by the way Benji would set up.
Right.
So I saw him set up, and I'm like, this is it, right here. Like he won't, and just throw for a strike, and we got it. So
his little like check,
yeah,
grabs his bat,
yeah.
Place goes bananas. I thought the stadium was gonna fall down.
Yeah.
That's how loud it was. I thought the bricks were gonna start falling off. I mean, the ground like the dirt is shaking.
Yeah.
It's just insanely loud. Where were you at? Like, was it?
I blacked out. I think I've seen like replays. I don't remember that. I'm just like basically yelling,
right? Like
jumping and yelling. And next thing I look up, and there's the pile right there, and I'm like, it was too late. I couldn't jump on. It was so high, I couldn't jump on. So I kind of like on the side, kind of like tapping people.
Well, then here comes Vlad.
Vladdy. I remember like seeing like I remember seeing like Vlad's head like going on top of the pile. And again, like, dude, you think about everyone's journey to that moment, right? Like, and if they're all uniquely cool, and Vlad had been this unbelievably great player in Montreal, like, I think for us, like, we never saw Vladdy as like a DH. We saw him as like that unbelievably great player in Montreal, where that turf just robbed him of his knees. Like, that moment for him, for all those years, not going to the World Series, and now he gets to go. We have been, at that point, have put in a lot of time with this organization. We get to go. Just unbelievable. So, yeah, I blacked out. Gave a lot of hugs all around. I think I ended up running around the stadium like,
well, I remember
I
tried to pick you up because every time that I was part of a walk-off, whether I scored the winning run or got the hit or whatever, for some reason you always pick me up.
The jump pick.
Yeah, the jump pick.
It was a good move.
Yeah, I would always jump, and then he would fake the jump and then just grab me, and that was your move. So I was like, I'm gonna do it to him right now, and I went, and I'm like, like, he's too heavy. I can't.
I think I got a picture of that somewhere. I remember I got like this goofy 10-year-old look on my face, and he was like confetti glued to my head, and you're like holding me like this.
Like halfway.
Oh yeah. It's like a pretty much a joke picture I send to everybody every time there's like a good moment. But I think we were like somewhere like in left field. I don't even know where we were.
Yeah.
Again, I blacked out. I was running all over the place. It was just I knew, it was funny. Like I kind of knew that, all right, the job isn't done. We want to win the World Series, but I'm not gonna let this moment pass. Like I'm gonna celebrate, and I firmly believe that too. Like anytime you win a series in baseball, you don't see in other sports like where they celebrate every single series. I love that baseball does it. You celebrate winning. You winning means a lot, and you never know when you're gonna get to that point again. So celebrate it. First time we had done it, for us to celebrate it here in our home ballpark with these fans, like I wasn't gonna come up short in the celebration. I was gonna go all out, but I don't physically remember anything about it. I can just look at pictures because I was.
Well, Texas knows how to celebrate.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I mean, loud. The music is ridiculously loud. People are beside themselves. Confetti everywhere. I don't know where it came from. Like, where did they get the confetti guns?
I don't even know.
Because it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Right?
Shooting out from the heavens.
I don't know what. And they just know. Like, it's just, you got the Texas flag, the one that's like half the size of the stadium being, drug around. And it's just
everything started to hit, man. Like all of a sudden, everything kind of calms down a little bit. The crowd's still going nuts, but they drag in that stage, and I'm like, holy! Here we are. We're right here.
Going to World Series.
Yeah, and it was just a really, really cool moment, man. I mean, the one that we're sitting there, we're celebrating on the field, and everyone kind of like you can see the look on everyone's faces, and
then the families come out.
See
your wife, your kids. It's like.
My family was super excited. I remember seeing the look on my wife's face, on my dad's face. My dad was like super excited for me, like, all that time that he had come hopping on flights from California to here and seeing seeing how much losing would kind of like grit on me, and not that grit on all of us. That wasn't just me, and now to see kind of it come full circle and get the chance to go out and play for the ultimate prize. I mean, it was a cool moment. And we hadn't even gone to the clubhouse to celebrate yet, which I always cherish those moments too because it's just us. At that point,
not that we'd ever done it before, but I felt like we knew how to get down. Yeah, the celebrations were outstanding.
The celebrations were ridiculous for that team. I mean, it started in Oakland when we won the division, and that was.
Well, we wanted to ruin that locker room anyway.
We destroyed that place.
The plan was to just destroy that locker room, so they had to give us a new one.
Yeah,
because
Oakland's clubhouse was old and out of shape. They did their best.
But so we were like throwing bottles into the
We were trying to destroy that place and force them to put some money in to at least get some new carpet for the following year. Because I remember there was plastic on the ground. We're like, rip that shit off. Like, we just started dumping hooch all over the floor. We came in the following morning. We're like, it smells like someone died in here too. It was awful.
And then next year there wasn't a new locker room. So
yeah, it didn't work. Yeah. Because I remember we had a day off the next day after we clinched in Oakland. And no.
I was suspended. I was in my sliders the whole game on the couch.
Yeah. You
had a tough night. It was a good place. It was a good suspension.
Yeah. And then I had to watch, like, you guys were all day off, so it was like sunglasses and sneakers. And I remember like it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, or whatever it was, when we got to, because it was day game the following day. And I showed up at the clubhouse and like I got my food and I went to the dugout because I couldn't handle the smell in that place. I swear it smelled like there was. I don't know what it was. There was some like, I know we partied hard in here last night, but something is dead in here. It's nasty. So we started like looking for, I don't know what it was. There was someone's pet was in there.
There might have been I don't know. There might have been something dead.
Yeah. Alcohol, cigars, and a dead animal. That was the Oakland celebration. But anyway, that we did know how to kind of have some fun after we won it. I mean, we went hard that night as we should have, man. It was cool. I think it was that night we won, and then you came over to my house at the end. We just kind of showed them the porch and just like finished it off.
Just soaked it in for that night.
Yeah.
Get ready. Well, I mean, the conversation always, turns to like the next step. Just as we're celebrating, it's always kind of lingering.
Yeah.
But man, what a time!
Unbelievable night, man. All right, man. Cheers. 2010. To all the guys that we don't get to see, and even though we don't talk all the time, we think about them all the time. And this is just another time where we can really focus on the guys that made everything happen. The staff and the coaches and the fans who were in the ballpark that night in Game 6 and there for the whole ride. We hope we gave you some memories, man, because we definitely have some ourselves.
Well said.